Tim Spradley means a lot to all of us, and I'd like to share with you some of my memories of Tim. My aunt started seeing Tim when I was just a kid. I remember how everyone liked him right away, especially my father. Tim had that Southern gentleman charisma about him and a slightly devious grin that was full of fun. As a kid, I always looked forward to the Thomasville Furniture Market each spring and fall because those 2 weeks, Uncle Tim and Aunt Jenny would come stay at our house, and Uncle Tim would always arrive with wonderful stories to tell, and I would sit and listen to those stories, hanging on every word. Most of the stories were like an episode of Seinfeld. They were just about ins and outs of everyday life, but the way that Uncle Tim told his stories made them interesting and fun to hear. One story that really impressed me as a youth was the time that Tim, as a teenager, was working at one of his family's flash markets. Some of his friends showed up, and they decided to see who was the toughest amongst them. The contest was 2 at a time to put their forearms together lengthwise and drop a lit cigarette between them and see who moved first. Tim was leaning against a refrigerated cooler while the others decided on this contest, and his arm was slightly cooler. Of course, with that advantage, Tim won easily, but hearing the story, I remember thinking, he must be afraid of nothing. I admired my uncle because he was tough. One summer years later, I was visiting my grandparents, and Uncle Tim and Aunt Jenny stopped in to see my grandmother on the way to Myrtle Beach. Of course, when I realized where they were going, I too wanted to go, but I was afraid to ask for an invitation, so I waited patiently and hoped. When the visit ended, they were leaving slowly. No invitation was extended. I was crestfallen as I heard Jenny's yellow Volkswagen engine start. I sat at my grandmother's kitchen table wishing that I was in that car with them going on that adventure. Uncle Tim must have known that I wanted to go with them because he suddenly reappeared and he said, I'm going to try to say this in Tim's voice. What are you doing sitting here? Are you coming with us or not? You better hurry and pack your stuff because I'm leaving here in less than 5 minutes. I hope you like fried fish because that's what we're having for dinner tonight. Otherwise, you can just stay here. I packed and was in the car in probably 2.5 minutes. I have so many other Uncle Tim stories. When I was old enough, I often worked for Uncle Tim on construction projects in different cities where we worked together, usually side by side, with my uncle always in charge. Tim could see early on that I was a very confused person, searching for my place in life, and he often took it upon himself to shepherd me along. Without either one of us realizing it, slowly, over time, Uncle Tim became my mentor. As a show of respect, I always called him Uncle Tim. I called him Tim once when I was in my 40s, and he looked at me like, did you forget part of my name? I immediately went back to Uncle Tim. Part of my uncle's leadership included friendly razzing and teasing, of which I enjoyed every second. One of our jobs included a kitchen remodel where we had to remove and replace all of the kitchen cabinetry. We pulled the first cabinet away from the wall together, and a rat the size of a large cat ran between Tim's legs, and we both jumped up on the remaining cabinets. Without missing a beat, and with a straight face, Tim looked at me and said, I want you to crawl into the house and see if there are any more rats. Take my hammer with you in case you see one. I was trying to figure out how I was going to say no, but then I saw that Spradley grin and knew that he was just kidding. He once sent me to the Thomasville dump with his beloved work van that he named the Blue Goose. Being young and dumb, I spun the tires and revved the engine because Tim couldn't see me. Of course, the men working at the dump knew Tim and they recognized Tim's Blue Goose. So when I called Tim to tell him that there was a hole in the gas tank and the van wouldn't start, he showed up right away and went straight to the guys working there to get the full story. The gas tank repair was $187, which included a full tank of gas. Now, some employers might have paid that bill and considered it the cost of doing business, but not Tim. The bill was presented and it was paid over time. It was a great lesson for me in being responsible for my actions. and I thought that was the end of it, but I was wrong. Uncle Tim has told that Blue Goose story almost every time that we've been together since it happened. And we sit and laugh about it, and every time it seems to get just a little worse. I will miss hearing that story, but I will always remember it in Uncle Tim's voice. Over the years, I slowly began to realize that all of the jobs we worked together, all of the stories that my uncle told, and all of the teasing and all the lessons were part of Uncle Tim's mentoring and guidance for a young man that he could see was clearly off course. Tim definitely helped mold me into the person that I am today, often with great patience and sometimes without. And for that, I will forever admire and be grateful to the man that was my uncle and my mentor. One more thing. Anytime you were parting ways with Tim for a while, he liked to say this: "Well, I'm glad you got to see me." And last spring, I did see my Uncle Tim for the last time, and I was really glad that I got to see him. Thank you, Uncle Tim.